All right, welcome into the first of a series on how to practice. I'm going to be working through some classic texts that hundreds and thousands of drummers and teachers have used over the years and that I still use with almost every student. Think of these like a study guide for how to walk through some of these books and methods that have been around forever, that maybe you don't have a private teacher to work with you on them, or you're just not quite sure how to get the most out of them. We're obviously going to be starting with the classic George Lawrence Stone book, Stick Control. If you do not have a copy of this book, please buy a copy. You can buy a digital copy, but you know what? I think a hard copy is proven to be better. The brain, I think, just processes information better when it's analog. Also, having the physical item is going to be more inspiring to practice because you're going to see it, you're going to want to open it up and work through it versus hiding it in an iPad. So get yourself a hard copy of Stick Control, not very expensive. This is the one I bought when I was in high school, and you can see it's all taped up, and I still reference it and use it all the time. So there's going to be a bunch of different lessons on this book. We're going to start with the first section, which is titled Single Beat Combinations. A word about how to practice this book. If you read George Lawrence Stone's text, a couple things stand out. He says an hour a day is ideal, which I have to agree. If you have an hour, great. If you have 10 minutes, you can still get a lot done in 10 minutes. And he says repeatedly on almost every page, repeat each exercise 20 times. So think of this as your calisthenics for drumming. All you need is a practice pad, some sticks, a metronome if you got one. You can do this like I'm doing this later in the evening when I can't play my drums full volume. Think of it as calisthenics for your hands. So we're going to be strength training and working on your reflexes. So let's talk a little bit about the stroke. So the first thing, super important, is the different stroke types. We're going to be doing what's called the piston stroke, the full stroke, various names for it. But the concept is start with the stick. This is a full stroke. Start with the stick as close to vertical as you can make it with the arm relaxed so the wrist is extended, the fingers are not extended. The fingers are wrapped around the stick lightly. The wrist is flexed back as far as it can go. That's your starting point. And then you're going to throw the stick down. When it hits the pad, you're going to let it immediately rebound back to where you started, like a piston. One motion. There's no stopping. It's not play, lift. It's just throw the stick as if you're bouncing a ball. It's important to work on the snap of the wrist. That's what we're developing. So here's the different stroke types. If you just let the stick fall with no energy, you're just letting gravity do it, that's called a legato stroke. That's a nice sound, but it's not what we want to use when we're trying to develop our strength in precision and reflexes, because that's minimal effort. Great for playing for long periods of time, but it's not what we want. So that's a legato stroke, just using gravity. If you snap the wrist as fast as you possibly can without overexerting yourself, just how fast can you flick your wrist, that's called a staccato stroke. So that's as much velocity as I can exert down towards the pad and then let it come right back up. We're going to be using staccato strokes for slow tempos to develop strength, endurance, and reflexes. The third type of stroke is in the middle. It's called marcato. It's halfway between legato and staccato. That's your general purpose, everyday stroke type. So we'll be going between staccato at slow tempos and marcato for general playing. So that's the full stroke. Both hands. The goal is to have the stick start and end at exactly the same point without lifting the arms, moving the elbows, just wrist snaps. If you divide that stroke in half, it's called a half stroke. That's going to be where we do the most of our playing at moderate to fast tempos. I think of full strokes as just being for slow full volume playing. We're developing our strength. Half strokes is when we start bumping up the tempo and working on our dexterity. So we're gonna be living in those two worlds, full strokes and half strokes. All right. I'm not gonna talk about grip or any of that. Just hold the sticks lightly. Don't squeeze it. Don't be super loose that your fingers are flailing out, but let the hand relax. If the fingers extend a little bit at this point, that's better than squeezing and hurting yourself. So just, as Billy Ward says, hold the stick as if you had a baby bird in your hand. How firm would you need to hold the stick in order to keep the baby bird in your hand but not killing it? Or I like to think just tight enough to where the stick doesn't fly out of your hand. It should be you should be able to pull it out of your hand quite easily, but you don't want to be dropping sticks either. All right, let's get to the exercises. So the first section of the book, single beat combinations, is where most of us spend the majority of our time with stick control. Even the first 13 exercises have kind of become a routine for me and hundreds of other drummers who've gone through the Joe Morello school of using this book. But the first exercise is just single strokes. So we're going to find a tempo where you can play full velocity staccato strokes comfortably, where you have enough time to reset and think about what you're doing. So it's going to be slow, and just try to find where is your personal tempo where you can really think about what's happening and you can assess. So for me, it's about right there. So I'm going to get my metronome on. I think it's about 112 for the, I've got to get my subdivisions turned on. So that's the 8th note. Nope, that's too fast. Too fast for me. We're not at that. We want to be able to reset and think about what we're doing. Let's try 90. There we go, 90. So exercise 1 is just alternating singles, right? So we're going to do it 20 times. So we're going to do the Stone method here. So 20 times through, count out loud. So you can count it as 16ths, 1 E and 2 E and E and 4 E, and then you repeat it. So it's going to be 20 of these. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Now, the second time. Each time I'm trying to snap the wrist as quickly as possible. Full velocity. Third repeat. Really throwing the stick towards the pad and getting the hand out of the way. Fourth repeat. Getting a little bit off the click because I'm trying to talk. But you also want to be thinking precision too. So try to get rid of any flams. Fifth repeat. I'm already feeling it. And 6 and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 7 2 E, and I'm not tapping my foot. Just focusing on the hands and the counting. 7, I think. 2 E and E and so you can see this is like going to the gym. 8th repeat. This is a strength building exercise. It's not complex. It's fundamental. Again, trying to make sure the stick comes back to a fully, the 9th repeat now, fully vertical position. Working on flexibility, the wrist snap. 10th repetition. And 11th repetition. I can feel my left hand is a little bit weaker than my right hand. It's starting to get tired. But I want to work both wrists. I'm basically trying to max them out with the wrist snap, the velocity. It's a workout. I think we're on the 12th repetition. Right? And 4. 13th repetition. I'll explain a little bit more about how this translates into the real world. 14th repetition. Obviously, you're not going to play the drums looking like this. It'd be kind of silly. But strength and conditioning. 15th. Am I right? 2 and 3 E and 4 E. 16th. So we're at the home stretch. 2 and E and 4 E and 17th. 2 E and 3 E and 4 and 18th. So I'm letting the stick rebound as naturally as possible. I do feel the stick vibrating. You know you're holding it lightly enough if you can actually feel the energy of the wood vibrating. Is this the 19th one? E and 2 E, 3 E, 4. I think this is it. 20. And 2 and 3 E and 4 E and That was a bit of a workout. I can feel it, but it's not painful. You don't want to hurt yourself. That's if you're squeezing too hard, you're going to hurt yourself. If you're hitting with too much, if you're trying to force too much, you just want to snap the wrist as quickly and lightly as possible. Basically want the stick to arrive at the pad at the highest velocity as you possibly can, and then get right out of the way and let it come right back to where it started. Okay, are you ever going to play this way? No. But what this is doing, at least in my experience, learning to play with a maximum velocity stroke allows you to get the most sound possible at any stick height. So you can play super quiet grooves with the maximum velocity. You're going to get a big, full sound versus if you're letting gravity at low volumes, you can kind of sound a little bit weak. So you get a very commanding, powerful, full sound at very low stick heights once you developed this maximum velocity stroke. And then you can slow down the stroke as you need to for different types of articulation and dynamics. But you got to find out what is your personal threshold for how quickly you can snap the stick to the drum. All right, so that's number one, played at a slow full stroke. Now we're going to try to find a mid-tempo half stroke. So full stroke, if full stroke was with the stick as close to vertical as possible, half stroke is going to be in the middle, 45 degrees. So find a tempo that is comfortable. You're still doing piston strokes, so you're still snapping the stick down and having it rebound exactly where you started from. We're going to do number two, just for the sake of moving on. Single stroke starting with the left. So find a mid-tempo where you can still control, you're still monitoring your technique. Probably about there. About 70, let's see, put the 16ths in. Let's see. Yeah. That feels like medium tempo. So I'm looking for a tempo where I'm still able to monitor and control the motion, but there's a little bit more, relaxed, a little bit more flow, and a little bit more of like a perpetual, so the hand's kind of moving in a little bit more perpetual motion. So 70 seems to be for me. So we'll do number 2, starting with the left, 3 and 4, and 1 E and a 2 E, and a 4 E and a 2, 2, 3, 4, 3 and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. Count the 16ths, 3, 4 E and a 5 E and a 2 E and a 3 E, 6 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and a 7, 2 E and a 3 E and a 8, 2, 3 E and a 4 E and a 9, 2 E and a 4 E and a 10 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 11, 3 E and a 4 E and a 12 E and a 2 E and a 3 E, 4 E, 13, 2 E and a 3 E, 14, 15. I'm trying to get my stick heights to be even. 15. By looking at the camera. 16, 2, 3 E and a 4 E. 17, 18, 4 E and a 19 and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. 20 and a 2 E and a 3 E. It goes by a lot quicker. So the mid-tempo for me, half strokes, at a tempo where I can count the 16ths and control it if I wanted to. So any faster than that, I would probably have a hard time counting the 16ths and being accurate. So it's still a relatively rigid staccato stroke. Like, not rigid, but snappy staccato stroke. I'm still trying to get the most sound as I possibly can, even at this stick height. That translates to gigs a lot, where I can get a full snare drum backbeat from very low position. So that's the second way to practice these. So each exercise, 3 tempos: slow, full strokes, mid-tempo, staccato, half strokes. Now we're going to bump it up. Where is kind of the flowing fast tempo, where I move more into marcato strokes. So rather than snapping each stroke individually, I'm trying to find a midpoint where it's not full. It's not a gravity. It's not 100% gravity, but it's also not max velocity. It's somewhere in the middle. And I'm going to this time count the quarter note. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I try to get these stickings to flow. 1, 2. Right. So that is 102. Nope. About 120. Yeah. And I'm going to take the subdivisions out of the metronome now, because I want to just focus on counting the quarter note while my hands play the 16ths. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So that's number 1. We did number 2. So number 3. No, we're not going to do doubles because that requires a different explanation. Let's do number 1 again. So just single starting with the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Half strokes with a more marcato action. 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4. Focus on relaxing the hand. 7, 2, 3, 4. 8, 2, 3, 4. 9, 2, 3, 4. 10, 2, 3, 4. 11, 2, 3, 4. 12, 2, 3, 4. 13, 2, 14, 15, 2, 3, 4. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. There you have it. So 3 tempos for each one of these stickings. I suggest the first time through using this book, stop, like do one exercise 20 times at a slow tempo, stop. Repeat it at a mid-tempo, stop. Repeat it at a fast tempo, stop, then go to another sticking, instead of trying to string all these together in a constant practice. Give Give your hands a break, give your brain a break. Kind of the worst habit is when you're practicing this kind of monotonous stuff is to let yourself wander, to let your brain wander and start thinking about everything else, because then when you're playing drums and playing music and you get into a section where maybe you're doing the same beat for a while, your mind's going to wander. So focus all of your attention into the exercise for short bursts of time, stop, reset, do it again at a different tempo or with a different sticking. Don't just string them all together just to get through the page, and then you end up thinking about what you're going to do later, and that's just instilling very bad habits. When you're playing drums, 100% of your attention needs to be on playing drums and making music. So that's one strategy for me is focus intently for a shorter amount of time, stop, regroup, and then start again. So that's exercise 1 and 2, just singles. I would do this exact same process with this entire first section. There's 3 pages of different single beat combinations. You're going to have to pick different tempos for each one, like doubles. Going to have to be slower when you're working on your full strokes, just to really focus in on what it takes to play those 2 notes in a row. And then your mid-tempo might need to be still a little bit slower than before, because you still want to do staccato, full velocity strokes at a half stroke height. So not rebounding, even though I'm playing doubles, it's not rebound. It's 2 individual notes, and then when you get to here's the thing with doubles. There's a whole other technique involved once you get into bouncing and controlling the bounce. I urge you to not go into any kind of bouncing motion when you're doing this book, when you're working through this book. Try to control every note. So with your fast tempo, only go as fast as you can play controlled, distinct doubles. I'm not letting the stick bounce at all. I'm playing 2 strokes. That's probably about it for me right there, where I'm playing 2 very deliberate doubles. Once I get past that, some rebound starts to get involved, and that's not what we're working on. We want to work on building up your wrist strength, speed, precision, and dexterity. So push your doubles as wrist strokes, relaxed wrist strokes, but still snappy. Find your breaking point. Like that's it right there. I'm kind of maxing out. That would be my fast tempo for doubles. So the slow tempo is going to be super slow. Mid tempo is going to be somewhere around here for me. Then fast tempo, I can go a little bit quicker because I've done these a bunch. Just trying to find the fastest comfortable speed before I have to start bouncing. I mean, I could muscle it out and go a lot quicker, but again, that's a different technique. We're just trying to develop our relaxed, full velocity wrist strokes with this book. For now, once we get into the roll sections, that's when we start involving the bounce and the rebound. So even when you're playing the doubles, play them from the wrist. So that's like my fast tempo for the double stroke starting with the right. I would do that 20 times, then repeat the double stroke number 4, which is starting with the left. Hit the 3 different tempos, 20 times each. It's not exactly double time, so that's why I stop and reset in between each one. It's not just playing slow double time, quadruple time. You have to find the tempo for each sticking at slow, medium, and fast that feels right. It's going to be different. It's not 100%, dividing things in half. So I'll do my lefts with the 3 different tempos, then you get into your paradiddle combinations. Same thing, start slowly. How slow do you need to go to never screw up the sticking? It's going to be different for everyone. Then mid-tempo. What's the comfortable, quicker pace where you get a little bit of flow, but you're still articulating every note with a full velocity stroke. Then, what is your fast tempo? I could probably push it. Nope. Right there, for me, right now. No rebound, but it's starting to become one motion instead of 4 separate motions. At the fast tempo, I'm trying to find where does it become a paradiddle? It's like one grouping. And then I'll stay there. And then you work through all the paradiddle variations that way, and then it gets into 3 with a hand. All the combinations of 3 with one hand and 1 with the other, 4 with each hand, and then from there on out is all the different combinations of basically the first 13 exercises in different ways. So that's how I would practice these single beat combinations from stick control. Remember, it is calisthenics. It is building strength and speed and precision and dexterity and control of the wrists. Fingers are not really involved. Arms are definitely not involved. This is a wrist builder book, especially this section. So however much time you have in a day to practice, just pick a few of these stickings. Each time you practice, I would suggest picking a different grouping of stickings so you're not just repeating the same chunk every time. Just pick 4 different stickings, and then next time you practice 4 different stickings until you get to the end of this section. Then you just go back and do it again. 10 minutes a day, half hour a day. I wouldn't do more than 10 minutes at a time. So after 10 minutes of this kind of intense practice, you should probably stop, move on, play some grooves, play along to some songs, play some styles, work on something that's not so physically demanding, or else you will hurt yourself. So 10-minute chunks, if you want to repeat it several times, in a practice session with some breaks involved, great, or throughout the day. If you can do an hour of this a day, you'll kind of fast track your technique for sure. But even just 10 minutes a day is going to do a lot to get your wrist fully articulating that quick, snappy bounce. So that's the first section, single beat combinations. Next time, take a look at this book. We will move into the triplet section and address some of the different technical and timing challenges of going between sixteenths and triplets, or eighths and triplets, however you want to count it. But that's it. Get yourself a copy of Stick Control, or break out your old copy of Stick Control, work through those first 3 pages slowly, deliberately, count out loud, keep track of your tempos in a diary if you can, and let me know how it goes.